Boundaries can repel narcissists and stop them from abusing you. In this video, I will cover what boundaries are, how they stop narcissists, how to set effective boundaries, and how narcissists break down your boundaries. Welcome to Narcissistic Abuse Healing, where I cover all topics related to narcissistic abuse. If you are not subscribed already, please do so. What are boundaries? Your boundaries are expectations and rules you create and define that sets out what acceptable and not acceptable behaviors are from others towards you. You can think of yourself as a country and your boundaries like a country's laws. If people want to interact with you, they have to adhere to your rules. Boundaries can be for groups, such as strangers are not allowed to hug you, or specific, such as you expect your partner to help you clean up after dinner, but you do not expect it from your guests. What are weak or no boundaries? Having no boundaries is when you have no expectation for how you should be treated by others. You leave it up to people to be nice to you. This allows narcissists to abuse and exploit you. Having weak boundaries is when your boundaries are so vague, one can easily sidestep them. Sometimes people say it is when you do nothing, such as going along with an action because you do not want to offend the other person, or feeling like you cannot express your emotions. But this is not enforcing a boundary. So the boundary is not weak, your enforcement of the boundary is weak. People who grew up in a toxic environment often have few boundaries or do not enforce their boundaries. This is due to their parents or siblings often violating their boundaries or refusing the person to set boundaries. This can be from not respecting your boundaries by just walking into your room or the bathroom without your consent, not allowing you to decide what you want to eat or wear, and not allowing you to have your own opinions. You may need to first realize and accept that you have a right to set boundaries, and that you have a right and are worthy of being treated with respect, as well as have a right to refuse to interact with people who do not respect you. How do boundaries stop a narcissist? Setting boundaries and informing a narcissist of your boundaries will not stop the abuse. Yep, you heard that right. Boundaries on their own do nothing. Narcissists do not react to words, they respond to actions. What stops the abuse is you enforcing your boundaries with consequences for them crossing your boundaries. Boundaries are only guidelines you set for how you want people to interact with you. It is what you do if people do not follow your guidelines that get people to respect your boundaries and stop unwanted behaviors. When the consequences of a narcissist crossing a boundary of yours is more than the reward they get for crossing your boundaries, it is no longer worth it for them. That alone gets them to stop. Not reasoning and pleading to their humanity or their empathy or trying to manipulate them with your love and giving in to all their demands. Consequences are what gets a narcissist to change their behavior and stop abusing you or to leave you. The first time you meet a narcissist, they will automatically test you by doing actions people with strong boundaries will react to. If you react, they know they will not get far with you. Thus, they just move along most of the time. Some narcissists will see you as a challenge, but if you keep enforcing your boundaries strongly, they too will move along. If you do not respond to their actions, then the narcissists know you have weak or no boundaries and that they can easily manipulate you. You may repel narcissists without even knowing they are a narcissist just by responding to their initial test in a way that they do not like. To stop narcissists, you have to have strong boundaries and rules for how people need to interact with you. Have strong reactions if the boundaries are crossed and enforce them without exception. Say you meet someone new and during the conversation they insult you by saying you have poor taste in clothes, friends, food choices, or you are stupid for holding a certain belief. This can be in person or online. If you let it slide, then you don't have a strong boundary where people must respect you and not insult you. Insulting you is often one of the first tests narcissists use to test your boundaries. Insulting you allows them to test your boundaries while giving them the backup excuse that they were only joking. They can also do a triple test on you in one go by responding to you calling their insult out by blaming you that you are insecure, oversensitive, or overreacting without even apologizing for their actions. If you allow it, they know in that one interaction that you allow people to insult you, that you do not demand an apology from someone, and that you will accept blame for the actions of a narcissist. They also know it is unlikely you will seek revenge or hold them accountable for what they do to you. That makes you a unicorn made out of candy to a narcissist. I once had a guy share an apartment with me. He was a pickup artist who dated multiple girls at once. He was supposed to meet a new girl and stood her up without even letting her know he was no longer coming. I asked him why he did it. He responded that he will just text her some lame excuse. If she accepts it and tells him never to do it again, he knew he could do it again and get whatever he wanted from her. If she blocked his number, he was not going to get anything from her. These tests are often called red flags. Seeing them for what they are and responding to them by refusing to further interact with a person can save you a lot of heartache and years wasted in a dead-end relationship. It may seem harsh, however, think about it. When we first meet someone, we are normally on our best. So that is the best you're going to get from that person. And if they already insult you or disrespect you from the start, how are they going to treat you when they think you are theirs when you date or marry them? Unfortunately, these red flags are often overlooked due to the narcissist putting on so many other charming behaviors or the people being unwilling to upset the person by calling their behavior out. How to set effective boundaries. First, sit down and write down how you want to be treated by other people. You can ask a friend with strong boundaries to help you out, or look at movies of how good relationships should be. You may also need to make a specific list of items you will no longer tolerate from a family member, partner, friend, boss, or co-worker. Second, decide on how you will respond when the boundary is crossed the first time and then the second time. Say you decide that you do not want to be hugged by strangers. If you meet a stranger and they grab you and hug you, what will you do? Will you let it be, or will you gently push them away and ask them not to hug you again? Then, what will you do if they ignore you and hug you again? Will you slap them through the face, or will you just walk away? Say you decide you will no longer accept being called names by your partner. What will you do when you say to them you will no longer tolerate their behavior and they ignore you and call you more names? For deciding on a response, the response needs to be so that it will discourage the person from crossing your boundary. The consequences must also be an action you take. This way you keep control. Step 3 is deciding how you will respond when they retaliate to you setting boundaries and enforcing them. Often you may need to introduce 1 or 2 boundaries at a time. The first few boundaries will be the hardest. Once you get the narcissist to accept one boundary, you can keep introducing new ones. You also need to decide when you will call it quits. What will you do if a narcissist refuses to accept your boundaries and ignores your actions and increases their abuse? How long and with what actions will you allow them to get away with before you say, this has gone too far, and accept they will not respect your boundaries? Step 4 is informing them of your boundaries and the consequences. Do not expect the narcissist to sit like a puppy waiting for food and listen to you. They will most likely act like a wild cat that you tried to bathe in your toilet. You may need to respond when they break a boundary. Say they call you names. You can respond with, the next time you call me a name, I will do X. Then be prepared for shit to hit the fan. Step 5. Enforcing boundaries with consequences is the hardest part of all. Responsibility and consequences are a narcissist's kryptonite. They are more allergic to it than potassium is to water and react just as violently. They will do anything they can think of to stop you from setting boundaries and holding them accountable for their actions. Often through gaslighting by stating that the event never happened, or saying that you are overreacting and being unfair to punish them. They will often try to guilt trip you and say, but you do actions that they do not like, or accuse you of abusing them. If you ever want to enforce boundaries with a narcissist, you have to stick to your guns and enforce the consequences for their actions. Not following through with what you set as a boundary is the death of your boundaries. There will be a lot of tantrums thrown when you take back the power you gave them. Narcissists make you believe they have the power, but in fact, it is you who has the power. You can choose how you will react to their behavior and can choose to not accept it. Yes, sometimes the price can be high with you needing to leave them and take legal action. But then, how much is your freedom, health, sanity, and happiness worth? How a narcissist breaks down your boundaries. Narcissists break down your boundaries by setting their own and then reacting over the top to when you break their boundaries. You become so scared of how they will react, you no longer enforce your boundaries. One by one, they push a boundary and cause fear or guilt in you if you question their actions, but you just let it go. Over time, the invalidation and overreacting on their part will make you believe that you are cruel and inconsiderate for having boundaries and expecting certain behaviors from them, or that you are unfair in setting boundaries. By them overreacting, they train you that the consequences of you breaking their boundaries, of holding them accountable for their actions, is worse than you letting them do whatever they want. Slowly they break your boundaries down one by one while setting absolute boundaries of their own around you. When you open your eyes again, your coffee is not only gone, but you are chained up while they have complete freedom. At this point, you will not only need to set your own boundaries, but you will also need to break their unfair boundaries. The longer you wait to set boundaries, the more abuse you will suffer, and the harder it will be for you to set your boundaries. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like and share it so that more people can benefit from it. If not subscribed, please subscribe now by clicking the seductive red button. As reward for subscribing, you will get more informative videos about narcissistic abuse. Please leave a comment as it helps to expand the information covered in the video, which may be of benefit to others. Also check out my books on narcissism by following the links in the description. Thank you.